So there are several videos already made today. The previous video shows 4.3 WSP odds. On this one, we're going to be explaining the even ones. So number 2, especially on the first section, they're asking for you to write it in point slope form. So again, we need to know point slope form. Y minus y1 equals m, parenthesis, x minus x1, close parenthesis. If you know that and you know how to use it, what I mean by how to use it, rewrite it without the x1 or y1 and rewrite it without the m. Leave blank spots there and you'll be good to go. Check it out. Y minus blank spot equals m, leave it blank, parenthesis, x minus blank spot. And then you go to number 2 and you realize you have an x, a y, and an m.
Y minus 6 equals 1.
So let's plug in the y value of -6 right here. Let's plug in the m value of -1 right here. And let's plug in the x value of 1 right there. And that is point slope form, but there's one thing that you could do to make it look a little nicer. The minus minus does change to plus plus. Good job, Alex. So this is your answer that you will see on the back side of your worksheet. Let's jump to the next one, number 4.
That's all you have to do?
Yeah, actually number 4 was already explained on a previous video. Let's jump to number 6. Once again, let's go with our formula. Y minus y1 equals m, parenthesis, x minus x1. And again, to write your equation, rewrite it but blank. In other words, don't put the x1, y1, or the m. Just write y minus blank spot equals m, but leave it blank, parenthesis, x minus blank spot. And now identify your x1, y1, and plug it in. So the y1 is -3. The m value is up here, 1/3, so put the 1/3 right there. The x1 value is 3. So the reason why I put y minus and then blank spot, parenthesis, x minus, because if you do have a negative value, when you plug it in, you will see that you have a minus minus that has to change to plus plus. So that's my equation in point slope form. Now this is a great skill, guys, because if they ask you to write it in slope intercept form, you could distribute and then move that 3 over to the other side, you change it to slope intercept form. Or if they ask for standard form, you could get rid of that 1/3, get rid of the fraction, because standard form equations don't have fractions in them. You get rid of that 1/3 by multiplying everything by 3. So point slope is great, even if you're trying to write it in other forms. Let's jump to the next one. Number 8. And right here on this instructions, it says write each equation in standard form. That's ax plus by equals c. And remember, a, b, and c are just numbers, no fractions, no decimals. So on number 8, this is in point slope form, right? My slope is what? Could anybody identify that slope?
-x.
-1, right? That means you're going down 1 over 1 if you were graphing. Could anybody identify the slope or the point here? What's the point here?
10.
2, 10. Not -2, -10. It's actually, you think opposite of what you see here. 2, 10. So if I were to graph this, it would cross through the point 2, 10, and it would have the slope down 1 over 1 from left to right. But anyways, that's just graphing, and we're not even asked to graph here. Right here, we're asked to take this point slope form equation and change it to standard form. Is that right? And standard form does not have fractions or decimals, and it definitely does not have parentheses. Okay?
Why did you multiply -1 with -2?
So yeah, to get rid of the parentheses, you're going to have to distribute the negative sign, distribute the -1. So yeah, multiply -1 times x, that's -x, -1 times -2, that's +2. And of course, bring down the equals and the y minus 10. Now, if they asked me to do slope intercept, I would just add 10 and add 10 and I'd be done. But they don't want it in slope intercept. What do they want it in? Standard. And standard has x's and y's on the left side and the number on the right side. So what do we do to get the x's and the y's on the left side of the equal sign?
-2. No, -x.
Okay, to get rid of the minus x, you would go plus x and plus x. And if you wanted to, you could do 2 steps in one and add 10 here and add 10 there. But I'm not going to do that. I don't want to confuse anybody. So let me just rewrite the whole thing. So far I have x plus y minus 10 equals 2. So my final step to getting in standard form would be to get rid of that minus 10 by going plus 10 to both sides. So standard form equation is x plus y equals 12. That's it right there. X plus y equals 12. Always double check and make sure your a value is not negative. If you had a negative sign here, change all the signs, okay? And also, especially because the final exam is multiple choice, check and see if all the numbers are divisible by a certain value. So right here you have a 1, and a 12, so we're not going to divide anything. But if I had like a 3, a 6, and a 12, then I would divide everything by 3 to make it look nicer. But this is a very nice looking equation. We're done. Let's move on to number 10. That's in point slope form. Just for funsies here, what's the slope on this thing? 3 over 2. Rise 3, run 2. Could anybody tell me a point that this line would cross through?
5.
A coordinate.
4.
You got to think opposite. -4, +5. We're not even graphing, right? I'm just getting way ahead of ourselves here. This isn't point slope form. They want us to write it in standard form. Standard form,
AY plus BY equals C.
capital AX plus capital BY equals capital C. Now, why are they capitalized? To help you remember what? You don't want what?
Negative.
You don't want a negative as your A value, but something else. You don't want,
X on the right side.
okay, you don't want X on the right side. That's true, but you don't want two things specifically with A, B, and C. You want them to be integers, which means what? No fractions and no decimals. So AX plus BY equals C, there's definitely no parentheses here, so you want to get rid of the parentheses. But on top of that, we know that we don't want fractions. So you have to get rid of the fractions and the parentheses. So to get rid of the fraction, you'd have to multiply everything by its denominator. So I might as well start with that. Multiply everything by 2. That times 2, this times 2, this times 2. Everything times 2. You will end up with 2y minus 10 equals, that 2 and that 2 cancel out. You still have a 3. You still have the parentheses x plus 4.
But you just subtracted 3.
And yes, from there, since you already got rid of the fraction, now you want to get rid of these parentheses. You're going to distribute the 3 to get rid of the parentheses. By the way, in case you're wondering, how come I multiplied this by 2, that by 2, this by 2, and how come not these guys? Because whatever you do to this outside term, it's like if you did it to the inside terms because of the distributive property that has to happen. So yes, we need to distribute the 3 times x. That would be 3x. And 3 times 4, that would be 12.
You don't multiply the other side because it's the equal sign.
Right. So on the other side, we still have the 2y minus 10. And it's almost in standard form. All we need to do is a couple more things. What do I do?
Minus 12. Oh no, minus 3.
Minus 3x to move the 3x over to the left side. That's cool. And minus 3x over here. And you know what? Because I'm running out of space, I'm going to try to do 2 steps in one. And I hope I don't confuse you. If I confuse you, raise your hand and I'll explain it a different way. But I need to move that negative 10 to the other side, right? So I'm going to go plus 10 right here. And plus 10 over here. Okay, so what canceled? The minus 10 and the plus 10 canceled. Whoops. The minus 3 and the plus 3 canceled. So what do we have left? We have 2y equals, oh, wait a minute. What about this negative 3x? That goes in the front, right? Maybe it's not good to do 2 steps in one. Negative 3x plus 2y equals 22. Yeah, so it might not be a good idea to do 2 steps in one. But if you could do it, go for it. Now, from there, if you look at the answer on the back, it's not the same because they always want that a value to be positive. So what are we going to do? We're just going to change all the signs. We're going to make that negative 3x a positive 3x. Make that plus 2 minus 2y. Negative 22. And that's the answer you're going to see on the back. Let's jump to number 12. Whoops. Technical difficulties. Whoops. Sorry. Number 12. Where are we? Where's 12? What the? So on this one, standard form, no fractions, no parentheses. So you want to get rid of those fractions. What do? Multiply everything by what? By 3. Times 3 there, times 3 there, times 3 there. The 3's cancel.
3y.
We end up with 4 times x minus 3 equals 6 times 3 is 18, minus sign 3 times y is 3y.
Mr. Sagara, how can we do the right?
Now from this point, you've already gotten rid of the fraction. Now let's get rid of the parenthesis. We're going to get rid of the parenthesis by distributing 4 times x is 4x. 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. Bring down the equal sign. Bring down the 3y minus 18. And now, to get in standard form, I want to get the x's to the left side with the y's on the left side. So I want to subtract 4x, subtract 4x. And should I do 2 steps in one? Should I move that 18 over to the other side? Or yeah? You guys all understand what I'm doing? Yeah. Plus 18 here, plus 18 over there. So the 4x and the minus 4x cancel. The 18 and the negative 18 cancel. My new standard form equation so far is negative 4x plus 3y equals negative 12 plus 18 is 6. Now the only thing that could make this look nicer is to make that a value positive. If it were an open response test, I would accept this. But on the back side, you're going to see that it doesn't give you a negative 4x, it gives you a positive 4x, which means that you have to change all the signs. Make that a negative 3y and make that a negative 6. And that would be your standard form equation for number 12. Got it? I hope you guys got that. Let's move on to number 14. So number 14, we don't have a fraction, but we do have a decimal, and we know that standard form, you don't want fractions or decimals. So how do I get rid of a decimal 2.4? Anybody? Multiply it by what? 10. Excellent. So I need to multiply everything by 10 to get rid of the decimal, because standard form does not have fractions or decimals. So if I go times 10, times 10, times 10, and don't mess with the inside of the parentheses, you're going to have a new equation that reads 10y minus 30 equals negative 24, because after all, multiplying by 10 will make the decimal move over one position, and you still have the parenthesis x minus 5. Now, we've gotten rid of the decimal. Now we need to get rid of the parenthesis by distributing negative 24. So negative 24 times x is negative 24x. Negative 24 times negative 5 is positive 120. And we have the equal sign, and we have 10y also, and minus 30. So we want ax plus by equals c. So I'm going to get rid of the minus 24 by going plus 24 with an x, of course. That cancels out. Plus 24, that will not cancel out. I'm going to have to rewrite it. But I might as well add 30 to cancel out the 30, and add 30 to get the number, the c value on the right side. So my new standard form equation will be 24x plus 10y equals 150, correct? Yay? Okay. Now, if you look at the back, you're not going to see this equation as your solution, because I know right off the bat that 24, 10, and 150, those are all even numbers. So I can make this equation look nicer by dividing everything by 2. If there were a greater value to divide by, then you would do that greater value. But right here, let's just divide everything by 2. Divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2. You'll have 12x plus 5y equaling 75. And I believe that's all you could reduce by, all you could divide by, because 12, 5, and 75 don't have a common denominator, don't have a common multiple. So that would be your simplified standard form equation. If you check the back side, that's what you should see. Now, if you're taking an open response test, yeah, we divided everything by 2. If you were taking an open response test and you wrote 24x plus 10y equals 150, I would give you the credit for that. But the final exam is going to have multiple choice answers that are in the simplest form, in the nicest way. So this is what you're going to see on a multiple choice answer on the final. Let's try number 16. 16 is the third section of this homework, and they want you to write these equations in slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. They do give it to you in point-slope form. What's the slope right here, guys? 4. What's the x1, y1 value?
2.
Close. -2 and -2. That's the actual coordinate. You think opposite of whatever you see, because the original formula is y minus y1 equals m parentheses x minus x1. So those minuses tell you to think opposite when you pick out your point. But that's for graphing when we do that in the future. Right now we're not doing that. Right here we have a point-slope form equation, and we want to change it to, what are they asking for? Standard form? No, slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. So again, y equals mx plus b does not have parentheses. You could have fractions on y equals mx plus b, but you don't want parentheses. So to get rid of parentheses, you're going to take that 4 and distribute it. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times 2 is 8. And you're going to have y plus 2 that comes down. The equal sign comes down. And you want to get y by itself, so what would you do? Minus 2. So minus 2 here, minus 2 over here. And you finally have it y equals mx plus b. So like I said, our 3 forms for today that we want to really be good at, all 3 forms: standard form, slope-intercept form, and point-slope form. So we need to be able to change any equation to any equation form that they want us to change it to. So number 18, it's in point-slope form. Let's get it to slope-intercept form, y by itself. So I want to get rid of the parentheses. What do? Multiply -5 times x, get -5x. -5 times 12, you get -60. Bring down the equal sign, bring down the y minus 3, and let's get y by itself. What do? Add 3, add 3. My new equation in slope-intercept form will be y equals -5 is my slope, plus b, which in this case is going to be a minus 57, because if you owe somebody $60 and you only have $3, you're still going to owe them 57. $20 was done on a previous video. And that's about it, guys. All the other questions are explained on previous videos. If you guys need help, watch those videos.